I have been reborn. In my previous life, I envied my sister for her beauty and kindness, spreading rumors everywhere to slander her. I despised the poor and favored the rich, and when my fiancé's family fell into decline, I broke off the engagement without regard for our childhood friendship. After my reputation was completely ruined, my father hastily married me off as a second wife in a political alliance with a powerful family. I suffered mistreatment and died with deep resentment. And my sister never left Qin Huan's side. Together, they created a legendary love story amidst the chaos of the times. After awakening, I realized I was merely a stepping stone to their great love. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the night before Qin Huan came to propose. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. Upon waking, I was met with a blaze of fire, startling me into crawling and struggling in panic. The leaping white light illuminated the neatly arranged ancestral tablets not far away. After calming down, I realized it was just a lamp candle. I remembered that I was punished to kneel in the ancestral hall for defying my father and being at odds with my sisters. In the dream, my father married me off to a northern noble family as a second wife, and I was eventually strangled by a vicious woman in the inner chambers and thrown into a raging fire. A heart full of resentment still lingered in my chest. Suddenly, the nanny's knock came at the door. Miss, the master has sent someone to ask if you've realized your mistake. Please tell father that I know I was wrong, and I beg for his mercy. The nanny pushed the door open, gave me an inscrutable look, and then nodded with satisfaction. Everyone thought I was being unreasonable and petty. Qing Dai, in order to raise funds for charity, kept the invitation from the princess to me a secret and attended the 100 Flowers banquet. She stole the spotlight, leaving behind a reputation for eccentric behavior, yet not without a kind heart. Meanwhile, I was blamed for disrespecting the princess and allowing my sister to cause trouble, resulting in my exclusion from all noble family banquets in the capital. No one questioned her about the act of falsely claiming the invitation and putting her legitimate sister in an unjust position. They excused her for being young and ignorant, letting it pass lightly. I begged my father to uphold justice, but he only evaded, saying, Qing Dai is young and doesn't know the weight of her actions. After all, her heart is in the right place. As the elder sister, you should be more forgiving. I didn't understand, father. Why is it that when Qing Dai does wrong, it's always me who has to be forgiving? Instead, he flew into a rage. As the eldest sister, you are narrow-minded and fail to get along with your siblings. Go kneel in the ancestral hall as punishment. I trembled with resentment, recalling how I had argued with my father time and again in the past, all for the sake of so-called justice. Little did I know that human hearts are inherently biased. When Qing Dai cautiously came to apologize to me, Sister, it's my fault, but I was only trying to raise funds for the orphanage. Sister, my dear sister, please forgive me this once. Since childhood, I never hid my disgust for her, yet she always had the nerve to come to me, acting cute and coquettish. I despised when Qing Dai my whole life, only to suddenly realize I had never truly looked at her carefully. The world praises her for having a heart of a bodhisattva, with a character that is resilient and pure, but is she truly as wonderful as the world says? She was made uneasy by my gaze. Sister, why are you looking at me like that? Since childhood, with her parents backing her up, even if she acted outrageously, the Marquis's household would always clean up her mess. The reputation of the women in the Marquis's household suffered because of her, yet they could only swallow their grievances in silence. I have suffered countless unspoken grievances at her hands. Since you're doing it for a good cause, I have nothing more to say. In that case, Qing Dai thanks you for your leniency, elder sister. Before I could speak, she turned and left. Just as she always did, acting as if I were invisible, I stared at her carefree retreating figure and said faintly, Wait, don't forget to take Lingxiang with you. Ayaka is the spy that my stepmother Lin Niang planted by my side. This time, the interception of the princess's invitation was also Ayaka's doing. From her moment of hesitation, it seems she was also in the know. I thought she was truly as innocent as she appeared on the surface. Her steps halted, and she turned to look at me with a hint of apprehension in her eyes. Isn't Ayaka someone from your room? Sister, how could I possibly have the authority to take her away? She's still playing dumb. In that case, I'll just sell her off. A traitor like her isn't worth keeping around, just a waste of food. She panicked, glaring at me with furious eyes. How can you be so cruel? What chance does a decent girl have if she's sold off? Cruel. Someone has to pay for wrongdoing. If anyone's to blame, it's her, for failing to see people for who they really are. I smiled as I looked at Wen Qing Dai, watching her hypocritical expression crumble bit by bit. When Qingdai fled in panic under my gaze, not even daring to look back, how would she dare to take it back? If she did, the virtuous and kind reputation her mother had built would be ruined. See, she has no intention of saving you. Ayaka knelt on the ground, trembling like a sieve. Miss, I know I was wrong, please. Spare me, I was deceived by the mistress, please, for the sake of having served you since childhood, forgive me. She was my personal maid who grew up with me since childhood. That's why, in my past life, she was the first to accuse me of instructing her to use witchcraft to curse Lin Niang and spread rumors to slander when Qingdai. My father believed it without a doubt. Did you ever think of our childhood bond when you harmed me? Most of the people in this courtyard were brought over when my mother married, and their deeds of servitude are in my possession. My mother passed away many years ago, and as time went by, they forgot who the true master is. Let this be a warning to all of you. Ling Xiang's fate today will be yours tomorrow. The wailing in the courtyard didn't last long before a cold corpse was dragged away. The well water washed away the bloodstains, leaving no trace as if nothing had ever happened. When I saw Qin Huan again, he and Wen Qingdai had already become acquainted through a fight. In recent years, when Qingdai had established a charity house in the city, taking in many children displaced by the war, this earned her widespread praise in the capital city. On the way to the capital, Qin Huan saw her forcibly abducting several children and struggling with them on the road. So he fought with her guards. It wasn't until they met at the mansion that the two adversaries finally cleared up the misunderstanding. It turned out that the orphanage was struggling financially, and a few sensible children had packed their belongings and left quietly to avoid burdening her. Qingdai rushed to bring them back, which led to the scene that Qin Huan had misunderstood. Knowing the truth, Qin Huan felt a pang of guilt, and his gaze towards his sister couldn't help but hold a touch more admiration. With a grand gesture, he donated 1,000 taels of silver to her orphanage. When Qingdai was delighted, beaming and calling him brother-in-law again and again, it was in this very scene that I appeared before them. The laughter abruptly ceased. Father and Qingdai exchanged a glance, a hint of awkwardness between them. Only Qin Huan, in his excitement, rushed toward me, then halted right before me, his voice trembling with suppressed emotion. Lana, after 3 years apart, I am finally going to marry you. At this moment, his eyes held only me, but as I looked at him, I felt nothing but utter unfamiliarity. When I was young, my father elevated Aunt Lin to the status of his wife, and he favored Wen Qingdai and her mother in every way. Finding me an eyesore, he sent me away to my maternal grandparents' home to study at a private school. We spent our youth together. He even used to complain about my father's favoritism towards me, detesting the schemes of Wen Qingdai and her mother, and constantly vowed to marry me in the future to rescue me from the Marquis Wen's mansion. In my previous life, I waited with joy for him to come and propose, never expecting that what awaited me was my own demise. On the way to Hugua Temple to pray for blessings, Qin Huan praised Wen Qingdai's kindness and bravery the entire journey. In my past life, I resented that. After our long separation, he kept praising another woman. In return, he blurted out, as Qingdai's elder sister, "Why do you only have the sentiments of a petty girl, knowing nothing but jealousy and envy?" This time, I wisely kept silent. I just quietly listened to him recount with admiration his experiences at the orphanage with Wen Qingdai, praising how she stood up to the local bullies and how she proved herself as capable as any man. "Lana, are you listening?" I turned to look at him. "Sorry, I was lost in thought just now. What did you say?" He was about to speak, but upon meeting my indifferent attitude, his lips parted, and a look of remorse surfaced on his face. "Lana, it's been 3 years since we last met. I shouldn't have let others interfere with our time together." Qin Huan was sharp and tactful, knowing what was appropriate and what crossed the line. He just couldn't help himself. Inside the temple wall, a crabapple tree was in full bloom, its brilliant red dazzling the eye. A gentle breeze swept through, scattering the petals like a shower of rain. A few petals landed on his shoulder, and I gently brushed them off for him. She and Prince Fuqing are deeply in love. If the prince were in good health, it would indeed be a perfect match. But it's a pity. I've heard that Prince Fuqing was born with a weak constitution and is unlikely to live past 20. That won't do. If Qingdai marries him, wouldn't she be condemned to a lifetime of widowhood? I looked at his expression full of regret and chimed in, "Yes, what a pity." After that day, Qin Huan, who was supposed to discuss marriage arrangements with the Marquis's household, was dragged around the capital by Wen Qingdai, meeting her so-called close friends in the upper city and spending money and effort on the orphanage she managed. In my previous life, I had been furious about this, only to incur Qin Huan's disgust. This time, I remained silent, letting the rumors outside grow more and more rampant. Father, however, couldn't sit still any longer and sent someone to summon me to his study. Your wedding with Qin Huan is approaching. How can you let him run around outside all day without even trying to spend time together and build your relationship? I put on an innocent face and asked him, isn't Qingdai accompanying him? I'm at ease with that. Father was left speechless by my reply, glaring at me with a look of utter disappointment. Finally, Matsushita's tense expression relaxed as he explained, Qingdai acts without regard for minor details, but such a style may not be understood by outsiders. Without regard for minor details, I smiled, unsure whether his words were meant for me or as a comfort to himself. In the court, a censor impeached my father, accusing him of failing to discipline his daughter properly, allowing her to appear in public without regard for the boundaries between men and women. When father returned home, he scolded Lin Niang severely and explicitly ordered Qingdai to return home immediately. It wasn't until dinner that Qingdai and Qin Huan arrived late, chatting and laughing, carrying a makeup box. Father, look what I've brought for my elder sister. Qin Huan handed me the makeup box in his hand. We spent the whole afternoon picking these out at Bao Yuzhai. All for your dowry, this Phoenix in-flight gold hairpin. Qingdai couldn't bear to part with it, but she still made the sacrifice. See how much your younger sister cherishes you. I glanced at my father, whose angry expression had faded considerably as Qingdai clung to his arm, cooing sweetly. Your daughter spent so much of her own savings, how will father compensate me? A young lady of the inner chambers should not show herself in public so casually. Even if Qin Huan is to be your future brother-in-law, it is improper by etiquette. This time, I will let it slide since you were adding to Qinglan's dowry. Qingdai exchanged a glance with Lin Yang, suggesting they had already passed the message along earlier. Using the dowry matter, she had extinguished father's anger. Qingdai and Lin Niang sat on either side of their father, the mother and daughter coaxing him into hearty laughter with just a few words. Qin Huan piled many dishes into my bowl. But when he looked at me, the corner of his eye always drifted toward someone not far away. I picked up my wine cup and walked to my father's side. I've caused you much worry over the years. I thank you deeply for your care and upbringing. Father looked at me, his murky eyes glistening with tears, as if something had stirred in his memory. Perhaps all these years of favoritism and harshness had finally sparked a flicker of guilt in him. But at most, it was just that, a fleeting moment. Like a flower that blooms and withers in an instant, I pretended not to notice and continued to drink my wine. Oh, Qingdai, did you drop something? I bent down and picked up a protective charm. This charm, Qin Huan, look, isn't this protective charm exactly the same as the one we prayed for that day? The atmosphere instantly grew tense. Qin Huan sprang to his feet, eager to defend himself. This is just an ordinary talisman for safety. The Temple of National Protection isn't a place only you and I can visit. His words, spoken with an agitated expression, only made it seem more like a cover-up. As the young master of the Duke of Qin's household, Qin Huan's father couldn't openly vent his anger. He simply suppressed his fury and glared at Qingdai, whose already guilty face turned deathly pale. Here, Lin Niang had already gracefully pressed her father's arm. A few days ago, I went to Hugua Temple to pray for blessings, and I prayed for the whole family. I just gave Qingdai one of them. I smiled and pressed the peace charm back into Qingdai's palm. Since that's the case, Qingdai, you must keep it safe. As I returned to my seat, Qin Huan avoided my gaze and stiffly made room for me. My eyes fell on the sachet at his waist, and I smiled. Ah Huan, the stitching on your sachet is loose, and its style is rather plain. It doesn't quite match your status. How about I give you a new one? After he finished speaking, everyone's gaze turned towards me. Given Qin Huan's background, he had no need to wear such inferior goods. Such crude stitching might go unnoticed by others, but father and Lin Niang would surely recognize it at a glance. I sat down gracefully and ate the meal in silence. What others find as tasteless as chewing wax is naturally none of my concern. Father punished Qingdai by making her copy the rules for women 10 times and confining her to the house for 10 days. In her previous life, when Qingdai used a sachet, she made herself to beg Qin Huan in exchange for the protective talisman we had sought together. The two of them wore them secretly, and the forbidden ambiguity and the thrill of an illicit affair, over the years, became a testament to their love. I had noticed it too, but after all the arguments and quarrels, it was always brushed aside lightly, and I ended up being labeled as jealous. Qingdai was under house arrest, and I deliberately invited Qin Huan to visit her with me. Nowadays, whenever he sees me, He always wears a constipated expression, unwilling, yet forced to come, for some reason. The guards sent by my father were all called away. Upon reaching the door, Lin Niang's voice came from inside. My daughter, your father is just angry for the moment, but he still cares for you deeply. Your mother has made a rare visit, don't throw a tantrum again. As long as you win Qin Huan's heart, this temporary hardship is nothing. In my opinion, Qin Huan is merely confused by youthful affection and may not have genuine feelings for Qing Lan. You must work harder to make him like you. I looked up at Qin Huan, his eyes were unreadable, and when he met my gaze, his guilt was unmistakable. With nowhere to hide, he instinctively held my hand, and I didn't pull away, letting him hold it. Mother, I don't want Qin Huan at all. Among the friends around me, Li Shu, Zhong Aoyao, which one isn't more interesting than Qin Huan? From inside the room came my stepmother's scolding. What do you know? Do you really want Qing Lan to marry into the Duke's household and have both of us looked down upon? Qin Huan and I exchanged glances, but in the end, I silently retreated from the courtyard. Lana, I truly had no idea that Lady Lin's intention in having Qing Dai approach me was so calculated. I swear to you, my feelings for Qing Dai are nothing more than that of a brother and sister. I covered his mouth and said calmly, don't make rash vows, be careful, for heaven has ears. My hand ached from his tight grip, but I couldn't break free no matter how hard I tried. I glared at him in frustration. He stared straight at me, his expression tinged with anxiety. Lana, I can't help but feel that since we reunited, you've been different toward me. Are you bothered by my interactions with Qing Dai? If it displeases you, I will never see her again. Just now, when Qing Dai said she didn't want him, the fleeting possessiveness in his eyes couldn't be hidden. Since he still wants to put on a show of deep affection with me, I'll play along with him. I finally pulled my hand back, gently rubbing the red marks he had left. Ah Huan, the bond we've shared since our youth isn't something Qing Dai can compare to overnight. I believe in you. After Qing Dai's house arrest was lifted, she went to see Qin Huan a few times, but was turned away each time. Afterward, the two seemed to be holding a grudge, neither willing to back down, and whenever they met, they were at each other's throats. Bandits were causing trouble in the distant mountains on the outskirts of the city, so the patrol battalion dispatched a small cavalry unit to pursue them, and a curfew was imposed in the city that evening. There were several young men from noble families in the patrol battalion who had always been on good terms with her. By the time we received the news from the Siji Bureau, Qing Dai had already followed the troops to the distant mountains to suppress the bandits. She had always been this kind of reckless and impulsive person. In my previous life, I caught a chill and developed a high fever that very night. This time, I still sent someone to deliver the message and lay in my room pretending to be ill. Qin Huan came to see me briefly after dinner, and later I heard he had chased after Qing Dai to the distant mountains. I stayed awake all night, and the elders at home waited anxiously until dawn, only receiving news of them in the early morning. I heard that when the two returned, it was in full view of everyone, with Qin Huan carrying Qing Dai back to the mansion. As I struggled out in my sickly state, I happened to see my stepmother scolding Qing Dai. It's fine that you returned safely. But if you act so recklessly again, I'll break your legs. Qing Dai timidly lowered her head, looking as if she were wronged and remorseful, but I clearly saw her cast a coquettish glance at Qin Huan. It seems that after this night, the two have reconciled, their bond stronger than before. Father frowned, his expression displeased. Huana, last night's matter was ultimately ill-considered on your part. At that moment, they finally looked up and noticed me. My stepmother shielded when Qing Dai behind her as if I were some man-eating beast. Meanwhile, Qing Dai remained composed, even offering me a slight smile. Sister, are you feeling better? I saw her disheveled clothes and knew they had fallen into the water last night and spent the night in the cave, their clothes soaked. They built a bonfire in the cave, shed their wet garments, and saw everything there was to see. Qin Huan looked guilty, but he was convinced he had held the last line of defense. So he felt little remorse when facing me. The years of secret flirtations and intimacies between when Qing Dai and him had become an unattainable desire hidden in his heart. A shameless man, I refused to have any further dealings with him in this lifetime. My gaze swept past him and met my father's, I suppose. If there's anyone in this household who could stand up for me, it would probably be him. Yet he slightly turned away, avoiding my gaze, and scolded Qin Huan and Qing Dai. Look at the two of you, how improper. Go back and change your clothes at once. Such a lukewarm reprimand, trying to brush the matter aside so lightly, but I refused to let them get away with it so easily. They should also get a taste of the verbal and written attacks that so often fall upon me. Father. They broke the rule of gender segregation. But it turns out it's not such a big deal after all. My words seemed to sting my father, making him displeased. What nonsense are you talking? You must be delirious from illness. I smiled. Which one of us is really the one who's sick? One by one, they all sided with Wen Qingdai, as if bewitched. Sister, please don't be angry. I swear, my relationship with Brother Qin is completely innocent, with not a hint of impropriety. Qin Huan also stepped forward and took my hand. Lana, I have not wronged you. Believe me, you are the only one in my heart. I pushed his hand away. Last night, when I was burning with fever, you left me to go find Qingdai. Qin Huan, is there no one else in this vast Marquis's mansion? You give a peace charm, and she returns a sachet. I've been turning a blind eye to it all along. But now, with your clothes in disarray and embracing each other in full view of everyone, where does that leave my dignity? Where does that leave the honor of the Marquis's household? Have you no shame? Father slapped me hard, sending my head reeling, my ears ringing with the impact. I read his lips, gritted with fury. Enough. Since childhood, you've always competed with Qingdai over every little thing. With such pettiness, how could you ever become the mistress of the Qin family? He still maintained that righteous and stern demeanor. Had I not been reborn, I might have been swayed by his bias, doubting myself, swallowing this grievance and countless others to come, becoming a stepping stone for their deep affection my whole life, ending up with a ruined reputation and complete downfall. Disheartened, she said, Father is right, I am lacking in virtue. I no longer wish to be the mistress of the Qin family. Qin Huan, let's call off our engagement. These words left everyone in shock. Qin Huan finally showed a hint of anxiety. No, Lana, believe me. I am truly innocent. Even when Qingdai hurriedly stepped forward, Sister, marriage is a serious matter and cannot be treated as a joke. I swear, Brother Qin has genuine feelings for you. I shot a fierce glare at her, and when Qingdai shrank back in fear, the words that had been on the tip of her tongue stuck in her throat. Then swear it, if you have even the slightest affection for Qin Huan in this lifetime, may your reputation be utterly ruined and your life end in misery. When Qingdai's face turned pale, and she dared not respond, Qin Huan felt sorry for her, and when he looked at me, there was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. Qinglan, how have you become so aggressive now? Father was even more furious. Someone, take the eldest young lady back to recuperate. I have been confined to my home once again, but this time it's different from before. The outside world is in an uproar, while I alone enjoy peace and quiet, just like in my previous life. The Duke of Qin offended the emperor and was stripped of his title, then exiled to Lingnan. With the emperor's furious rage, no one dared to speak up for the Qin family. The Marquis of Wen's residence, due to my engagement to Qin Huan, also fell silent for a time. As the great mansion teetered on the brink of collapse, the idea of breaking off the engagement that I had mentioned earlier also began to appeal to my father. Since Qin Huan is about to return to Lingnan, if you are willing, I can prepare a decent dowry for you and have you marry him to Lingnan. Given the Qin family's current decline, as the Marquis's daughter, they would not dare to look down on you. If you are unwilling to marry, considering the Qin family's current situation, I doubt they would cause any trouble. I looked at my father, who seemed to be making plans for me. Isn't there a third option? He looked at me, a faint anger flickering in his eyes, as if he had guessed what I was about to say. But I turned a blind eye to it and, confronting his anger, retorted sarcastically, Father might as well ask Qingdai, perhaps she would be willing to marry him. What nonsense is this? Qingdai was long ago promised to the Prince of Fucheng. For her to marry a man who was once engaged to her elder sister, what face would that leave for our Marquis Wen's household? I smiled without saying a word. Father didn't know that the Qin family's retreat to Lingnan had been part of their plan all along. With powerful families entrenched in their domains and the Son of Heaven powerless to control them, the Qin family had long been dissatisfied with their current standing. They intended to use Lingnan's strategic position to amass military strength and eventually march back to challenge the capital. Qin Huan was about to depart for Lingnan. Before leaving, he came to me and said, I came to marry you and take you home. How did things end up like this? I looked at him, vaguely recalling the afternoons of my youth, when I would rest my head on his lap and sleep peacefully under the summer corridor, amid the cicadas' chorus of midsummer and the starry Milky Way. The young man who once promised to rescue me from the treacherous depths of the Marquis's mansion had, in the end, turned into a beast that bites. Qin Huan, those who hesitate cannot achieve great things. He suddenly raised his eyes to look at me, a glint of shrewdness flashing in his dull gaze. He asked me uncertainly, hesitantly, Lana, what are you saying? Since you have already made your choice, let's not see each other again. I was the one who proposed breaking off the engagement, and it was before your family lost power. I never intended to climb the social ladder through your family's status. So stop spreading rumors about me being a gold digger." Suddenly realizing something, I laughed at myself. It was my lack of self-awareness that made me blind for a moment. An unfavored eldest daughter of the Marquis Wen's household, how could she compare to the beloved and renowned second daughter? He came to the capital to seek my hand in marriage, holding on to the cherished affection of our youth, yet his actions told a different story. Perhaps there was temptation from Lin Yang and Qing Dai, but who was the bait, who was the fish, or perhaps the angler? A thought struck him, and he blurted out, "Lana, come with me to Lingnan." I gently pressed my finger to his lips, watching the hesitation swirling in his eyes. "Qin Huan, don't be impulsive, after enduring all these years, don't let it all go to waste." I turned to leave, but he grabbed my hand. I struggled and finally managed to shake him off. Soon after, the family steward rushed in anxiously to report, "Master, it's terrible." The second young lady, she, just like in her previous life, when Qing Dai ignored her family's objections and stubbornly followed Qin Huan away from home. Qing Dai was the daughter-in-law chosen by the Qin family. She had a reputation and public praise among the people, and her father held command over the capital's elite troops when the time came for action. When Qing Dai was the one who would connect the two families, it's unclear what Qin Huan said to Qing Dai that made her follow him without hesitation. Her father flew into a rage and secretly dispatched a team of household soldiers to pursue and capture Wen Qing Dai. Not many days later, it was the Prince of Fuqing's mansion that sent Wen Qing Dai back. It was said that after hearing of Wen Qing Dai's disappearance, the Prince of Fuqing had set up checkpoints along the roads and dispatched his household troops in pursuit. Unexpectedly, they found the second miss when riding in the same carriage as the young master of the Qin family on their return journey. Shortly after, the letter of annulment from the Prince of Fuqing's mansion was delivered to the Marquis Wen's residence. For a time, rumors about the second miss of Marquis Wen and the young lord of the Qin family were rampant in the streets. The Marquis Wen's residence became a laughingstock both inside and outside the court. When Qing Dai was locked in the ancestral hall, punished with kneeling, in the middle of the night, my father, accompanied by Lin Niang, kicked open my door in a furious rage. I glanced at the servants kneeling outside the courtyard, each one guilty and fearful, utterly useless. I was the one who sent someone to inform Prince Fuqing, but it only took a few days for Lin Niang to find out. "It seems the people around me are still not trustworthy." Father roared at me. "Prince Fuqing has called off the engagement, our Marquis household has become a laughingstock, and your sister's reputation is ruined. Are you satisfied now?" He blamed everything on me, his old face flushed red with anger. "Why are you so unwilling to let your sister go? She is your own flesh and blood." I laughed. Then, "Father, have you ever thought of me? I am also your own daughter. Why is it that when Qing Dai can seduce my fiancé and get away unscathed, you unfilial daughter, do you think ruining her reputation will bring you any advantage?" Lin Niang tugged at her father's sleeve, glanced at me timidly, and said in a tone that seemed to advise but only added fuel to the fire, "Lana, why must you do such a thing? Couldn't we have settled this privately? Now, not only have you harmed Qing Dai, but you've also brought shame upon the Marquis's household." I shot her a glare, and she immediately shrank back behind our father like a startled bird. "Father, was it really me who ruined her reputation? Did I force her at knife point to do these things?" Lady Lin leaned out again, wiping her tears with a handkerchief. "Qing Dai has indeed gone too far this time, but she's still young and doesn't know better. As her elder sister, please forgive her this once. That way, your engagement with Qin Huan can proceed as planned. And I will make sure to keep Qing Dai in check from now on." "So that's the plan, to have me marry Qin Huan and silence the gossip?" I was stunned, but then I heard her murmuring on, "Lana, we're all family. There's nothing that can't be discussed properly. The reputation of the Marquis's household is tied to yours, we rise and fall together." I said mockingly, "How can that be? Qin Huan has already seen Qing Dai's body." Lin Niang's shrill voice suddenly rose, "Don't you dare slander Qing Dai." It was as if someone had struck a raw nerve. A flicker of satisfaction sparked within me. Now that they've eloped, aren't they just a pair of wild ducks? I've broken off my engagement with the Qin family. Whoever wants that engagement can have it. She pointed a trembling finger at me and cursed. "I've said all the good words I can. Why won't you just let my daughter and me go?" I was both amused and annoyed by her acting, staring at my father with sarcasm. "Look, you gave me two choices. But in the end, when Qing Dai made the decision for me, I told you, but you didn't believe me." "Father, flushed with anger and shame, snapped, "I think you've truly lost your mind. Tomorrow, you'll go to Mingxian convent to cultivate your mind and await your marriage." My kind-hearted stepmother, supported by her maid, wept as I was about to leave, crying, "What sin have we committed? Oh heavens!" I watched her for a long time but couldn't spot a single tear in her eyes. Don't celebrate too soon. I've always believed that in this world, there is a cycle of cause and effect. In my previous life, I had also been to Mingxian nunnery. The nuns here, bribed by Lady Lin, tortured me to the brink of death. During the day, the meals were always mixed with sand. At night, the bedding was either damp and cold or moldy. Endless heavy labor, the frequent lash of the whip unable to endure even a month. I nodded and agreed to marry into the Longxi noble family. This time, seeing the malicious glint in each of their eyes, I knew Lin Niang had already paid them off in advance. Opening the side room, a musty smell hit me. A trail of water stains stretched across the floor, reaching the bed, where a soaked quilt lay. Clearly, someone had poured a bucket of water over it. I strolled into the courtyard and sat on the stone steps, gazing at the bright full moon in the sky. A place of clear breeze and bright moon should be a realm of elegance. Prince Fuqing, Li Yu, sat in his folding chair, his face as pale as paper, his broad robe making his frame appear even more frail. It was said he was born with a weak constitution and would not live past 20. He had been kept alive all along with rare medicines. "Does Miss Wen wish to see me?" Li Yu said with a serious expression. "The Wen Marquis's residence has brought shame upon me. Aren't you afraid that I might take my anger out on you?" Miss Wen, in the previous life, Prince Fuqing was in poor health. To avoid holding Qingdai back, he never married her until his death. This shows he was a kind-hearted and benevolent ruler. "Your humble daughter has been sent to the Mingxian nunnery due to madness. How could your highness bother with a lunatic?" Li Yu let out a light laugh, his face full of mockery. "With the Wen Marquis's household having such a reputation, how could I possibly know whether the eldest Miss Wen is truly mad or just pretending?" I teased, "Whether it's real or fake madness. Doesn't your highness want to know who sent the message to the prince's manor? Was it really you? You are, after all, the eldest daughter of the Wen Marquis. Why would you do such a thing? Considering that I have helped your highness avoid an unfortunate marriage, may I be allowed to tell a story?" He looked at me suspiciously but did not stop me. "This is a story of Qin Huan and Wen Qingdai joining forces to overthrow the realm and achieve dominance. In their grand ambitions, I am not the only one who has suffered. No matter what, the current master of the overturned kingdom is more capable than I am to prevent what is about to happen. Miss Wen, you are suspected of spreading heresy to deceive the public. I could charge you with a crime at any moment. Are you truly not afraid, whether what I say is true or false?" "Your highness will naturally find out in due time. It is known to all that Prince Fuqing has been prophesied not to live past the age of 20. Facing the inquiry in his eyes, I replied calmly, "In my heart, I still wish for your highness to live a long and prosperous life." Li Yu's expression froze. He was stunned for a moment before suddenly bursting into laughter. A smile spread in his eyes, and a touch of color returned to his pale lips. If he were in good health, his bone structure would surely have given him a breathtakingly handsome appearance. "I heard that Marquis Wen, to quell the rumors, intends to marry you off to the Qin family. Though it's said that children's marriages are decided by parental orders and matchmakers' words, this match is hardly a suitable one. Marquis Wen now owes me a favor. Perhaps I could speak on your behalf." I shook my head. "Thank you for your kindness, your highness. What use is praying to all the gods and Buddhas? In this world, the only one you can ever truly rely on is yourself." He laughed. "The young lady certainly has backbone. Today's conversation, I wonder how much of it he actually took in. With him around, the path of the Qin family in this lifetime is bound to be anything but easy." The night was deep and dark, with raging flames illuminating half the mountain. The nuns, drugged with a sleeping potion, slept soundly. A great fire consumed the Mingxian nunnery and, along with it, the eldest daughter of Marquis Wen. From then on, when Qinglan ceased to exist in this world, my maternal grandfather's family was once a prominent and wealthy gentry in the western Shu region, and they had only one daughter, my mother. Over the past 5 years, relying on vague memories of this world's changes from my previous life, I gradually expanded the trading house, infiltrating various powerful families and factions. Who would have thought that after the Qin family was exiled to Lingnan, they would establish a kingdom there and proclaim themselves rulers? Now, Qin Huan has declared himself the Southern King, and the imperial court will likely send troops to suppress them soon. After I left, when Qingdai ultimately married Qin Huan, a woman who was rejected by the Prince of Fucheng, eloped with her elder sister's fiancé, and was notorious. Her life in Lingnan was unimaginable. The two, who should have created a legend, parted ways after just 1 year. Qin Huan formed marriage alliances with daughters of various powerful clans and families, and his influence in Lingnan grew increasingly formidable. It was widely rumored that when Qing Dai had been divorced by Qin Huan and sent back to the Marquis Wen's residence, where she had now become a taboo subject, the Qin family of Lingnan has now declared themselves kings. Due to the past with Qing Dai, Marquis Wen is frequently reprimanded by His Majesty, and the Marquis's prestige is not what it once was. Without me as a stepping stone, their brilliant lives came to an abrupt halt. Master, do you think we should gradually consolidate our business in the Southern Kingdom? Jun Luo carefully peeled a grape and offered it to my mouth. Master, Qin Huan has sent people to buy ore from us more than once. In my opinion, we might as well take advantage of the chaos and extort a sum from him. Nowadays, only the government is qualified to operate iron mines. If Qin Huan wants to buy or to smelt weapons, he has no choice but to seek out privately operated mines. I smiled. Since he came to us, why not take on a profitable business? Prince Fucheng, Li Yu, has been counterbalancing Qin Huan at every turn over the years. It was worth all the effort I put into supplying rare and exotic plants to Prince Fucheng's residence, watching him survive past his coming of age and grow increasingly influential in the court. Over the years, the Prince of Fucheng has successively subdued the noble families in the capital region, and the military forces of the Central Plains are now entirely under the court's control. Even with the rise of the Southern Kingdom, there is still a chance for a fight. I thought for a moment it was time to add fuel to the fire. Returning to the capital, the autumn wind swept fallen leaves before the Wenhu mansion. Desolate and bleak, Jun Luo stepped forward and knocked on the door. The steward who answered, upon seeing it was me, was scared out of his wits. Lady Lin, once known for her simple and plain attire, now adorned herself with a head full of jewels and heavy makeup, yet it couldn't conceal her fading youth and weary appearance. It was said that Lord Wen had been disheartened and frustrated over the years, taking many beautiful concubines into his rear courtyard, unable to retain Lord Wen's affection. Lady Lin could only rely on such heavy makeup and lavish accessories to barely maintain her dignity. All of it was nothing but yesterday's flowers, the last gasp of a spent arrow. I never thought you were still alive. She toyed with the gemstone earring by her ear, adopting the air of the lady of the house, which struck me as somewhat unfamiliar. To my left and right, she didn't even glance at me, as if she thought I was here to freeload. I mimicked the innocence and naivety she used to affect. Striking right at the heart of the matter, after being away from home for so many years, I've missed everyone dearly. I remember Qing Dai cared for me the most back then. I heard she married and moved to Lingnan. How is she doing now? As if struck on a raw nerve, she shot up from her seat and slammed the table. How dare you come here to mock me? The way she was hopping with anger made me extremely happy. What a coincidence. I really did come to see you make a fool of yourself. Guards, throw this imposter who's pretending to be the young lady out of here. Jun Luo stood protectively by my side, but the next second, a furious roar echoed from not far away. I'd like to see who dares. It was my father, the ever-discontented Lord Wen who, years had passed, and time had been kind to this man. Even with silver strands at his temples, he remained as handsome and refined as ever. After that furious shout, the moment he laid eyes on me, tears welled in the corners of his drooping eyes. I had imagined our reunion would be fraught with tension, never expecting that a trace of warmth still lingered in him. Child, it's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. It left me somewhat at a loss. At Marquis Wen's residence, I saw Wen Qingdai once again, dressed in plain clothes. She held the hand of a maid beside her, her expression gentle, yet her eyes carried a hint of madness. Chiaoa, I know your family is struggling. I will inform mother to increase your monthly allowance. The girl named Chiaoa trembled as she knelt down. This humble servant thanks the second young miss. The second young miss is kind-hearted and a truly good person. It's good that you know, by the way. Please tell Qin Huan for me that the orphanage has no extra funds to keep running, and I must ask him to send some silver over. Seeing that Marquis Wen was about to lose his temper, Lin Yang hurriedly stepped forward. Hurry and take the young lady back. When Qingdai saw me, and for a moment her eyes bulged and turned red as she rushed over like a madwoman, the servants in the mansion seemed to have anticipated this and quickly rushed forward to restrain her. But they couldn't stop her from cursing loudly. I knew you weren't dead. When Qinglan, haunting me won't do you any good. Qin Huan and I are truly in love. You should have died long ago, you wretched bastard. So what if you're the legitimate heir? So what if there's a marriage contract? I am the woman Qin Huan loves most. Jun Luo was seeing Wen Qingdai for the first time, calmly observing her madness as she was dragged away. She whispered in my ear. Is this the kind of person who has kept our lord tossing and turning all these years? I rubbed the body bead bracelet in my palm. What has always made me uneasy was never Wen Qingdai. What is that? It's the fate that cannot be held in the palm of my hand. Father led me to his study. Over the years, he had accumulated too much resentment, and only upon seeing me did he finally have a place to pour it all out. I thought he would treat Qingdai well. But who knew he would actually say such a thing as demoting his wife to a concubine? It made Qingdai so angry that she argued with him, lost the baby, and became mentally unstable. In the end, it was your stepmother who secretly sent someone to bring her back. It was her idea to elope in the first place. In my opinion, she brought this fate upon herself. Keeping such a disgrace in the Marquis's household is truly shameful. Father's bitter and sarcastic expression now overlapped with his previously biased favor toward Qingdai, making it hard not to laugh. Marquis Wen has always been a selfish and self-serving man. I spent the whole night talking with Marquis Wen by candlelight and gave him what he needed to regain the Emperor's favor. The next day, Wen Hu, ledger in hand, stepped onto the Golden Throne Hall. Your humble servant has received secret intelligence that Qin Huan, the king of Lingnan, is secretly amassing troops and forging iron, intending to rebel. I implore your majesty to preemptively dispatch troops to suppress him. Immediately, the entire hall erupted in an uproar. The Weigua faction, led by King Fuqing, immediately echoed the sentiment, and His Majesty promptly decided to send troops to attack Lingnan. When I saw Qin Huan again, he was trapped in a damp and dim dungeon. In the darkness, he seemed to sense it was me. Lana, is that you? The injury to his collarbone made his hoarse voice tremble. Marquis Wen forced you to your death. I avenged you, step by step, and ended up in this state. I did it all for you. So it turns out that when people are at a loss for words, they laugh. You hated Marquis Wen for forcing me to my death. So you abandoned Wen Qingdai. You hated Marquis Wen for forcing me to my death. So you married daughters from various noble families. A bitter laugh escaped his lips. You don't believe me. Even now, the depth of emotion in his eyes still surprises me. It was you who consorted with Wen Qingdai, you who abandoned Wen Qingdai, and you who betrayed your country to become king. So, naturally, it must be you who now faces retribution. Heaven is still just, no matter how you try to argue. It knows that every wrong has its perpetrator, and every debt its debtor. He spat out a mouthful of blood, veins bulging on his contorted face as he stared fixedly at me. After a long moment, a sudden, knowing smile spread across his features. It was beyond my expectation that a capable minister would emerge in troubled times, and that Fu Chengwang would be able to turn the tide. I had a dream. In it, I married Wen Qingdai and together we conquered the world. I laughed at him. Don't you know dreams are the opposite of reality? He froze, looking at me, and for some reason, his eyes welled up. Yes, the opposite, that's fine too. Leaving the imperial prison, I encountered Prince Fuqing. He looked much healthier than he had 5 years ago, appearing as if he could live for several more decades. Miss Wen, I must thank you. If not for your warning back then, I would not have been confident in restraining the Qin family's rise. The situation today might have been entirely different. I took a secret letter from my sleeve and handed it to him. Your Highness, here is a list of names related to Qin Huan's confession about his rebellion. For your consideration. He quickly scanned the secret letter and chuckled softly. These names are quite unexpected. Could it be that there's no personal revenge from Miss Wen involved? We exchanged a smile. I hope from now on, both of us can sleep well. The wheels turned, and Jun Luo and I returned to Shu. Since I took over the business, my maternal grandparents have started a life of gardening and tending to plants. When I have nothing to do, I always end up nagging about my marriage. Grandfather, if you have some free time, why not help me go through these account books? He waved his hands repeatedly. Lan, spare this old man. Your grandmother wants me to go pick tea leaves. Watching them with their white hair and youthful faces, their steps seem much lighter than they were a couple of years ago. I smiled as I gathered the account books from the table. Back then, my mother died in childbirth, and over the years, my maternal grandparents had a falling out with my father. And they no longer kept in touch. I knew they often thought of me and frequently sent me gifts, but more often than not, the gatekeepers and my stepmother's people secretly kept them for themselves. I will always remember that night when I, in tattered clothes, secretly knocked on my grandparents' door, and how they held me, crying uncontrollably.